Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today on our Core Web Vitals webinar and how you can take advantage of this next Google ranking factor. So a bit of housekeeping before we get started. If you can mute yourself, unless you have a question or a comment, that would be fab. We will have frequent stops also along the way to answer any questions and comments. And also at the end, we will have an open discussion around all these changes which are coming. And there will be a lot of content that we're going to go through and some complex concepts to be able to wrap your head around. So don't worry, we will be providing a recorded version of this webinar to you afterwards. So let's get started with some introductions. So I'm Jody. I'm the Sales and Marketing Manager for Insight Online. And also joining us today, we have David, and he is our Senior SEO Consultant / Guru in-house. And a bit about what we do at Insight Online. So we are a search marketing company. And what that means is we look after things like your digital advertising, which is your Google Ads, your YouTube, and Facebook. So it's all that paid online stuff. And also the other thing what we do is the search engine optimization. And this is where this webinar really ties into, is the search engine side of things. And lastly, website and analytics, because you need to be able to measure and report on all this hard work that you put into these other two channels. So let's get started. Core Web Vitals. So what we are going to, the outcomes that you should expect today is an understanding of what's happening. We'll give you a good definition of Core Web Vitals. Also, other things about how you can actually work with your developer to be able to take advantage of this update. We'll also share some helpful tools that we use on assessing Core Web Vitals on a website. And then finally, we're going to wrap things up with a bit of a Q&A. So why is this update important? Google updates its search engines many, many times a day. So, and sometimes there's like some big core updates which happen. And unfortunately, with these constant changes that Google actually rolls out, there's not a lot you can really do about it. And even for the big ones, it is, you will get a generic response, is making sure that you're providing useful content that is optimized, that is for the people who visit your site. So overall, it's quite generic and you can't actually do too much about it. But what's really important about this one is it's actionable. So there are things which you can do to be able to influence your site with rankings. And this isn't often that Google actually allows this to kind of happen. So to give you some examples of some similar updates, mobile first was one that came out a few years ago. And that was where it was looking at indexing your mobile site first and actually how well that experience was for people visiting your site on mobile. The other one, which you are probably all familiar with also, is doing a security update. So making sure that you have moved from HTTP to HTTPS and that people were browsing securely on your website. So with these ones that you can actually have an impact for, they are beneficial because it's going to make an impact on your search rankings. In return, that influences how many visitors you get to your website, your traffic, and then hopefully will convert into the leads and sales. So what is going on? So Google has been doing these types of rollouts frequently over the past few years. And there's two pieces to it. One is site speed. Site speed has always been a really important thing with Google. And I really want you to lock that in, site speed. And then it's also the user experience. So a combination of these two things is what Google is going to be focusing on. So to give you a definition, Core Web Vitals are a set of specific technical factors that Google considers important of a web page's overall user experience. So Core Web Vitals are made up of 3 specific page speed and user interaction measurements. And these being largest contentful paint, first input delay, and cumulative layout shift. So this may sound like another language to you, but we will take you through what exactly this means. So a little bit of history when we're talking about the user experience side of things. So Google's already rolled out these page experience factors. So it's looking on whether your site's mobile friendly, making sure your website's safe for visitors, that there's not people stealing your visitors' other information, and also having no intrusive interstitials. And what is an intrusive interstitials? Think about those big pop-ups that come up in front of you when you're visiting a website and they block your experience. I will probably use New Zealand Herald as an example of this. When you're viewing their content on mobile, you get this big ad that pops up and you're like, I was trying to read this article. I didn't need this big ad in front of me. So with this, Google is now adding another layer to this, and it's the Core Web Vitals. So to break it down in a little bit more layman's terms for you. So it's looking at loading, the interactivity, and the visual stability. And these are going to be added on top of what is already currently here. So let's start off with largest contentful paint. So largest contentful paint is how long it takes for the biggest piece of content on your page to load. So that's things like images, text, video, to give you some examples of large pieces of content. And Google has also put in some benchmarks, which they feel delivers the best experience. So if you think about if you have that largest piece of content, and if it's loading underneath 2.5 seconds, you're doing really good in Google's eyes. Anything in between the 2.5 seconds and the 4 seconds, Google thinks that you need to make some improvement on that. And anything above that, it's poor. Google is looking at that as being a poor experience. So one of the tools that we use, and then also we'll be doing some live demonstrations around this too, so you can actually get a good feel about how this tool works, is the Page Speed Insights tool. And this will scan your web page and give you the measurements and the results of how it's worked. So we are actually going to use our site as an example. This is an older reading of our site, but that's okay because we have a new website now, so it may have changed a little bit, but it's still useful for this purpose. So when we go to largest contentful paint, we are sitting at 3.5. So that's okay. And here we can actually see, you'll get a little step-by-step of actually what's loading and at the speed that it happens. And then mobile because mobile is so important now. And in all honesty, you should be measuring yourself on your mobile constantly. So we sit at a 12, and our largest contentful paint is more than 15 seconds. That's not good. So this is going back into the site speed aspect again in the user experience. You got to think the web is competitive. Everyone's trying to grab people's attention. So if someone actually takes the time out to click on your website to try and find the information that they need, and your web page is taking a long time to load, they're going to click back and they're going to go to the next that's in the search results. Other features of this Page Speed Insights tool is you're able to get field data. So if you're a popular website and if you get a lot of traffic, Page Speed Insights will break down all of these metrics for you over a period of time, being 28 days. So you're able to get a good aggregate of data on how your site is performing overall, instead of just on the time that you went to go measure it. But if you're like us, not as popular as the other website, you're going to, you're not going to get the aggregate of data, and you'll be, so it's unfortunate, but you can still work with kind of what you got, and you will just get the lab data. So common issues with largest contentful paint. Things that cause this are low server response times. So it is looking at where your website's hosted. If it is over in America and your customer base is in NZ, consider maybe moving that over to a New Zealand hoster. Caching is another really important thing, where what you're doing is saving pieces of your website on people's browsers. So the next time they come and visit you, the site is going to load up a lot quicker for you. And then lastly, and this is really, really common, and we see it a lot with websites, is the slow resource load times. Are your images the right size? Are they too big? Have they been compressed? And it's looking at those and going to fix it. So all these things are fixable. Just work with your web developer around it. David, do you have anything that you would like to add?
No, not at the moment. I think you've explained it very well.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Thank you, David. All right, so next, and I will probably be leaning on David a little bit more for this one. This is your first input display. So it is looking at how quickly, I'm just going to, let me get this. So it is measuring the milliseconds in between when something is done on a page. Think about when someone's clicking a link on your website, or they're clicking on a button, and how quickly that responds. This is another thing that's tightly linked into the site speed component. So the measurements that Google has put together is if these elements that people can interact with load in 100 milliseconds, you're doing great. Anything in between 100 and 300 milliseconds, you're going to need to work on it a little bit. And anything above that, you've got a lot of work to do on fixing it. So here is our model client, and those elements which can be clicked upon load really quickly. They are at 1%. Not 1%. They're saying at 1%, but they are also at 5 milliseconds. So they're doing really well. So how can you fix this, and how can you impact it? So this is going back to how quickly things are loading, and what things are getting in the way of that. And so common culprits that we run across is third-party code. So think about all the things that you're using to track interactions on your website. So it's your Hotjars, it's your Facebook pixels, it is your LinkedIn Insights code. So it's all those things that need to load, which impacts this. And it's a really good idea to actually have a review and go, which ones are you using and which ones are really important to you? The other one is breaking up big JavaScript tasks into several smaller tasks. And lastly, it's keeping request counts low and transfer sizes small. So to give you a little bit more of an understanding of actually how a web page loads on our browser, it comes up and then it's getting all these important pieces of information. So it's going and it's getting this, so it brings in the images, it's going here so it can load up. So it makes many, many trips back and forth to put together your website so it's in front of the person. And the more trips that happens, it's going to slow things down. It's like when you got guests over for dinner and they're waiting and they're hungry, but you've forgotten the beef, and you go back to the grocery store and you bring back that ingredient. Oh, you've just forgot the time. Now you're going back. And so you got people waiting and they're getting really annoyed. It's about making sure that your trips back and forth have been consolidated. And that's essentially kind of like a good example about how a website loads for a user. David, what are your thoughts around this? Is there anything that you'd like to add around this topic?
I think just people understanding that when you arrive at a website and you see something on the page that you want to go to, a link to another page within the website, when you click on that link, first input delay is how long does it take for you to go to that page? And the reason why it takes a long time is because the website is waiting for other elements to load on the page. So as you said, all of these things really do come down to speed.
Yeah. Thank you, David. Okay, I know it's been heavy, but this is the last one that's around the core Web Vitals. So this is your cumulative layout shift. And it is a score that measures how much the layout moves around, particularly when loading. And this is one I'm sure many people have experienced also. And yeah, when you're going, hey, I'm reading that. I'm going to go and click. And then all of a sudden you've put on another link and you're like, what's going on? That is cumulative layout shift. So benchmarks that Google have put together around this, and it is a movement of 0.1 for a website to move. David, can you confirm with me whether that's in millimeters?
It's a fraction.
It's a fraction, yeah. So it is a fraction of so it's a 0.1 fraction of movement. Then in between that 0.1 to the 0.25, that's needing improvement. Anything above that is poor. So we got a really good video here that can show you what this looks like. So, right, yes, I want to buy this item. Oh, but I don't want 56 of them. And now I've ordered it. All right. I am going to replay that again because there's a really important piece that happens here, and it outlines perfectly on why this shift occurs. So if you just pay attention to above the order confirmation, see, we've just seen an ad pop up, and that's what's actually shifted that down. So within the PageSpeed Insights tool, here you can see our model clients. They're well below it. They're at 0.08 of a fraction shift. So common issues that cause this. So in that video example that I showed you, you were able to see something load and that shifted it down. And that can be anything around images. So if you don't have dimensions assigned to your images, when that's loading, that's going to shift stuff down. Ads. So if you're running advertising on your website and if there's not a fixed space for those to sit, that's going to shift your website around. Other things also is looking at the dynamically injected content. So those are like your GDPR notices. And the other big culprit around this is your web fonts, because you'll have a backup web font while the server is retrieving the font that you've assigned to it. So all these things cause minor movements or big movements within a web page. These will need a developer to give you a hand on these, but have a chat with him around it, and he should be able to help you. David, did you have anything that you'd like to share about the cumulative layout shift?
Well, not particularly. I think you've explained it well, but I mean, I think all of us, for instance, have experienced reading an article online, and we're trying, particularly on a mobile device, we're reading the article and it keeps moving down or shifting, and that's because the page actually hasn't loaded to start with properly. So it's inserting things. And as you say, if simple way to work that out is actually for your developer to assign a space for things that are going to load on the page, so that the page is already loading with that space allocated, and then the page won't move.
Yeah. Thank you, David. So now we're going to take you through some of the tools which we use. So we've showed you the page speed insights, and then we also have the Google Search Console. And these are the two places that are going to give you some really good information about what is happening. So when you log into your Google Search Console, you're able to see this just down here, your Core Web Vitals. And it will show you the performance around that. And it will break it down into the two components for you, with one being mobile and the other one being desktop. So here we can see this person here actually has quite a few poor URLs on mobile. And this is, and we'll dig down to find out where those are coming from. And then also here's your desktop. So you actually got no good URLs. These are the ones that need improvement, and how many that are poor. We'll also show you, like with this, it's a lot of the times it can be related to a template. So when you go through and actually have a look at the URLs, you will see going, oh, okay, it's actually the blog template that's actually causing this problem. And it may seem like a lot that needs to be fixed, but it's probably just resolving the issue that sits within that template. So we can dig down a little bit more, and then we can see that there is a cumulative layout shift problem happening here. And then we also got a largest contentful paint happening here. And here, this is where I was telling you where you can actually go down and see which web pages are causing this. But because of confidentiality, we've kind of blocked this out. So what we are going to do, we're actually going to pop over and actually have a look at our site. And it will give you a better idea around things. So here we are. This is our site. Data right now is actually slightly limited because we've just rolled out a new website. But however, you can see that, all right, so we got one URL that needs improvement on mobile. And right now we just don't quite have enough data for the desktop. But regardless, we are just going to look at mobile because that's what's more important. All right, so we're going to open up the report, and it's going to be, okay, so which one needs improvement? Okay, so we got a largest contentful paint problem. And let's have a look at where this is coming from. All right, so we can see here that we actually have an issue around on how our team page is loading. So it is going to be having a chat with the developer and working around and troubleshooting where that's coming from. Within that, come on, let's go pop over to Page Speed Insights. Here we can now that knowing that that's the problem, let's pop it into the Page Speed Insights tool, and it will actually give us a really good detailed breakdown of what is happening. All right, so it's analyzing. Ooh, okay. So we've improved slightly from the data that you've seen before, but we still got some work to do. So here, like, it's not as bad as what it was at the 15 seconds, but we're still not, yeah, we can get that better. So here we are finding out that, sorry, I'm just getting into my data. So here we can actually see everything that is causing us problems. So we actually got a bit of JavaScript, which could probably be tidied up and be working alongside the developer of actually going, okay, right, what can we be doing here to make this code load quicker? Here we also got some render blocking resources. So this is blocking how quickly things are loading up. And then, like, in all honesty, like, this is a foreign language to me. So it will be having a discussion with the developer to go, right, how do we fix these things? But from a high level, I can probably see there's something happening around our assets. And that's going to be the things like our images. That's going to be my educated guess on that. Serve images in next-gen format. So this is around when I was talking about how image size is more than likely the culprit on a lot of the websites that we see. And here we could see, all right, these are the images, which is causing loading time and site speed issues and Core Web Vital issues on our website. So it's going to be a little bit of work to go back and get these to where they need to be. So yeah, and it's great because you get all this information here that you can pass on and send this to your developer to work on. So we got some CSS. I'm sure this is all just gibberish because it's probably using language that you're probably not familiar with, but all right. Okay. So we got some response time issues happening. And here we go. More image. Yeah, we got some image sizing problems. All right. And yes, images. Images is the problem. And we got a little bit of JavaScript. So all these little things combined will make a large improvement to actually how your website will load speed-wise, with the user experience-wise. David, did you have anything around that also which you'd like to discuss?
I think all of us look at, obviously Page Speed Insights is a very useful tool, but the majority of the information that's provided in the tool is of more use to your developer.
Yeah.
So it's definitely worth asking your developer, even if you don't think you have these issues, just to check some of the pages on your website with Page Speed Insights. And as you've shown, it provides a lot of information about which actual pages and what the actual issues are. And you didn't scroll down, but actually the page goes on for a long time and includes a whole lot of other issues. And further down actually will break down more and more things. For instance, here you can see that it's actually telling you the largest content for paint element that's causing a problem. The layout shift issue that's causing a problem. So it's definitely worth having a look at. Obviously, if you understand it and you can do things to your own website to fix it, that's great. But in the main, most of our clients will end up asking the developer to fix it. And often developers will also say, I'm not sure about that. But that's what we do. We pass these things on to our developers.
Yeah, then I guess it's also being aware also, this is going to be a big shift for developers also, because these are all new things which are kind of coming in that Google's requiring to be implemented. So there's going to be, I think, a steep learning curve for them around some of these things.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So I guess some things to keep in mind around this. When at the beginning of the presentation, we were talking about how Google's always making these changes to their algorithm. And also there's over 200 search engine ranking factors. So there's a lot to be focusing on around that. But this is one that you can actually make an impact on. So if you do this, if you and your competitors actually go and make all these changes, you're probably not going to notice too much of a change around your rankings. But if you do it and your competitor doesn't, you'll notice that you're going to start to come up on your rankings. If you do nothing around this, you will probably start to see your competitors passing you on search results. So how much of an impact it has probably all depends on the speed of how quickly everyone's implementing this. So this is actually happening quite quickly. Google actually delayed it last year because of the pandemic, and they pushed it out to May. So we are looking at April, May. We're looking at this rolling out in about 2 months, maybe less, maybe 6 weeks. We're already at the end of March here. So it's going to be rolling out really, really quickly. And that's it. Thank you very much. If you do, we'll probably pause for a little bit of a Q&A. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask them. Oh, right. Everyone's a bit silent. That's okay. Don't worry. If you do have any questions, please feel free to email me at jody@insightonline.co.nz. And I'll be more than happy to get some answers for you about anything that you may have. And also, as I said, we will be sharing this recording with everybody. So I'll be sending those out for you over the next few days. And thank you very much for joining us.